I'm Camelia and you're watching KiniNews. Abuse of power and money laundering. Those are the charges Muhyiddin Yassin will need to beat in court to remove himself from being included in Bersatu's growing court cluster. He faced 6 charges today and 1 more to come on Monday. Former Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin distanced himself from UMNO's court cluster today despite claiming trial for 4 counts of abuse of power and 2 money laundering charges involving 232.5 million ringgit. Speaking to supporters outside the Kuala Lumpur court complex today, Perikatan Nasional chairperson said he should not be compared to UMNO President Ahmad Zahid Hamidi.
Oleh kerana saya tidak menerima rasuah, maka mereka mencipta kesalahan lain untuk mengesahkan dakwaan Presiden UMNO bahawa akan wujud kluster mahkamah baru dalam kalangan pimpinan Perikatan Nasional. Dia ingin menyamakan saya dengan dirinya. Tentu sekali berbeza. Dia dituduh menggunakan wang yayasan untuk kegunaan diri sendiri. Sedangkan saya tidak ada 1 sen pun wang yang masuk ke poket saya sendiri.
He also disputed the charges as being politically motivated.
Jelas, pendakwaan ke atas saya adalah satu bentuk pemangsaan politik yang terancang.
Muhyiddin added that would leave it to the Bersatu Supreme Council to determine whether or not he should continue serving as party president.
Ya, saya akan bawa kedudukan saya kepada Majlis Tertinggi Parti untuk mereka memutuskan. Kerana saya berbeza dengan Wan Saiful Wan Jan, saya adalah presiden yang dipilih oleh parti. Saya akan serah pada Majlis Tertinggi dalam tempoh yang paling dekat dan apa saja keputusan yang mereka buat, saya akan akut.
Clad in a black suit, Muhyiddin was charged this morning before Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court Judge Azura Alwi. The 4 abuse of power charges, framed under Section 23(1) of the MACC Act 2009, accused Muhyiddin of using his position as then Premier and Bersatu President for an inducement of 232.5 million ringgit from 3 companies and an individual between 2020 and 2021. The 3 companies are Bukhari Equity Sendirian Berhad, Nepturis Sendirian Berhad, and Mumfor Sendirian Berhad, while the individual in question is Azman Yusof. The 2 money laundering charges were laid out under Section 4(1)(b) of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001, read with Section 87(1) of the same Act. The 76-year-old is accused of receiving 120 million ringgit of proceeds from illegal activity from Bukhari Equity Sendirian Berhad between February 25, 2021 and July 8, 2022. The money laundering was allegedly committed by receiving money banked into Bersatu's account. The Pagoh MP faces 20 years in jail and a fine 5 times the amount of gratification involved, or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher for the abuse of power charges. For the money laundering case, he may be sentenced to imprisonment of 15 years and fined 5 times the amount involved, or 5 million ringgit, whichever is higher. Azura then granted bail at 2 million ringgit with 2 local sureties and ordered the accused's passport be surrendered to the court. The judge also set May 26 for mention. Later this morning, Muhyiddin posted the 2 million ringgit bail and was released. Muhyiddin is expected to face another charge at the Shah Alam Courts complex on Monday. Despite the corruption charges, Muhyiddin is not short of supporters. Many showed up at the KL Courts complex today to show that they are still behind the man they call Abah.
Allah is with Abah and malicious intent. Those are just some of the slogans raised by Muhyiddin Yassin's supporters at the Kuala Lumpur court complex this morning. The Bersatu president is facing multiple corruption charges today. Muhyiddin arrived at 8:40 a.m. and was greeted by 100 supporters. Many of those supporters were seen donning white t-shirts with Muhyiddin's photo on it. Top Bersatu leaders were also spotted in the vicinity. They include Bersatu Deputy President Ahmad Faisal Azumu, Information Chief Razali Idris, Women's Chief Mas Ermiati Samsudin, former Dewan Rakyat Deputy Speaker Rashid Hasnun, and Bersatu Youth Information Chief Muhammad Ashraf Mustaqim Badrul Munir. Police officers and personnel were also present in the vicinity to manage traffic flow and to control the crowd. Yesterday, Muhyiddin was questioned for more than 9 hours at the MACC headquarters in Putrajaya. The former premier was detained but later let off on bail to be present in court this morning.
PN leaders are now rallying behind Muhyiddin, with some expecting him to inspire a movement even greater than Anwar's reformasi. A PAS leader has predicted that support for Perikatan Nasional will increase following the charges against Muhyiddin Yassin. PAS Secretary General Taqiyuddin Hassan said the wave of people opposing the cruelty committed against Muhyiddin will be bigger than the reformasi movement 25 years ago. Taqiyuddin spoke to reporters at the Kuala Lumpur Court complex today. He was commenting on the corruption charges against Muhyiddin. The Bersatu president claimed trial to 4 counts of abuse of power and 2 money laundering charges involving 232.5 million ringgit. Taqiyuddin was referring to the reformasi, which began as a protest movement to counter Anwar Ibrahim's sacking as the deputy prime minister in September 1998. Meanwhile, Bersatu Secretary General Hamzah Zainuddin echoed Taqiyuddin's statement. That's not all. Another PN leader appears to be baffled by the accusations against Muhyiddin. According to him, a thief would not realistically steal money and not hide it better. A Bersatu leader has defended party president Muhyiddin Yassin by saying if someone were to steal money, they would have hidden it better. Party Deputy President Ahmad Faisal Azumu said, as a layman, it makes no sense that a thief would keep stolen money in a political party's bank account. Speaking to reporters at Menara PGRM in Kuala Lumpur after attending the party's annual general meeting today, he added that realistically, that wouldn't happen. However, he stressed that the party will not interfere with the court. The meeting, which was supposed to be held this morning, was delayed to allow Bersatu members to show solidarity with Muhyiddin at the Kuala Lumpur High Court. Faisal was referring to the 6 charges leveled against Muhyiddin this morning. Muhyiddin claimed trial to 4 counts of abuse of power and 2 money laundering charges involving 232.5 million ringgit. Hadi continues to deliver his weekly Friday sermon, despite the State Islamic Council prohibiting politicians from carrying out such activities at mosques and suraus. PAS President Abdul Hadi Awang today delivered his weekly sermon at the Rusila Mosque in Marang, Terengganu. This comes despite the prohibition by the State Islamic Council against all politicians from delivering a lecture or sermon in all mosques and suraus across Terengganu. According to Utusan Malaysia, the Marang MP gave his sermon after delivering donations collected by the state PAS to the Turkey and Syria earthquake victims at the mosque. The prohibition was issued after state ruler Sultan Mizan Zainal Abidin became upset that some politicians had delivered religious lectures or classes and led Friday prayers without approval. Exemptions, however, are given to politicians who have been recognized to teach or those with permission to do so from the Terengganu Malay Heritage and Islamic Religious Council. Despite the prohibition, Hadi said there was nothing wrong with Muslim politicians delivering sermons in mosques or suraus, pointing out they have a duty to speak up on various matters, including politics. Hadi stressed this is because in Islam, politics and religion are inseparable. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim rebuked Hadi on the matter, asking the latter to mind his words and never go against the decisions taken by the Malay rulers. Besides Terengganu, Johor and Perak also have similar prohibitions in place. Having heard the issues raised by the Titiwangsa MP on 1MDB in Parliament recently, the Prime Minister has decided he'd be the best person to chair the task force on the Sovereign Fund.
BN lawmaker Johari Abdul Ghani has been appointed as the chair of a special task force on 1MDB. This was revealed by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim in the Dewan Rakyat last night. Anwar said the Titiwangsa MP had raised many issues concerning 1MDB in the House, including the settlement between Goldman Sachs and the government. Anwar said he did not agree with past decisions on 1MDB, adding that previous administrations treated the issue very lightly. Last week, Johari urged the government to probe those involved in the settlement, arguing that $2.5 billion was too low. Johari was the second finance minister between June 2016 and May 2018. He replaced Ahmad Husni Anatsla, who eventually told the courts later that he was blocked from investigating 1MDB-related matters. In July 2020, the Finance Ministry, under the helm of Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz, said the settlement involved $2.5 billion in cash and $1.4 billion in assets. Details of the settlement are scarce. In November 2020, the Muhyiddin administration said details of the settlement were bound by a confidentiality clause.
We all know what happens when Bank Negara increases the OPR, and one lawmaker is hoping the central bank could show some compassion and not raise it anymore this year. Former Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said there is no urgency for the central bank to increase the overnight policy rate this year. In a statement today, the DAP chairperson urged Bank Negara Malaysia to show compassion for the B40, M40 and small businesses. Lim said while the party welcomed the central bank's decision to maintain its OPR at 2.75% yesterday, it further hopes this will continue throughout the year. He said based on Malaysia's economic performance, it is not a pressing matter for the central bank to increase the OPR as done last year. Lim also noted how Bank Negara surprised many by not increasing the OPR in January. He said this eased the cost burden of higher interest rates on individual and SME borrowers. Last month, Bank Negara Malaysia Governor Nur Syamsiah Muhammad Yunos stressed that any decision on the OPR would not be solely in tandem with other central banks, but rather more focused on the domestic economic environment. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook for the latest news updates. If you would like to support independent media, do consider subscribing to MiliciaKini.com. I'm Kimilia. Thanks for watching.